Welcome to this session of Supervised Ministry 301. This is Steve Gouge, your instructor. Today, you will learn about the historical beginnings of supervised ministry. You will learn that the classroom was the dominant setting for education, theological education, and all other types of education. You will also learn how supervised ministry began as a reaction against traditional theological training. And then we will talk about the founders of Clinical Pastoral Education, CPE. CPE is a hybrid of supervised ministry. You'll learn about the person responsible for initiating CPE among Southern Baptists, and then we will talk about the development of supervised ministry. I mentioned in the previous slide that CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education, is sort of a hybrid of supervised ministry. So I want to talk about the historical beginnings of that movement. It began in the United States, and it arose partly as a reaction against traditional theological education as it was being taught at the beginning of the 20th century. Because you see, traditional theological education happened in the classroom when theological problems were studied by reading books and listening to lectures. But clinical pastoral education brought students face-to-face with problems through the study of what was called the living human document. The generally accepted founders of clinical pastoral education are William S. Keller, Richard C. Cabot, and Anton T. Boyson. William S. Keller in 1923 began experimenting with the use of supervision in medical and social work, as well as courses in pastoral ministry. His programs included what now is a standard in supervised ministry, and that is the clinical case studies. However, the outbreak of World War II ended his commitment to supervised ministry. Richard C. Cabot is known as the father of medical social work. Cabot pleaded for a professional model of theological education that would use supervised ministry as one of its prominent features. Anton T. Boyson was a Presbyterian minister who later became a Congregational minister. He referred to himself as a Presbygationalist. He is generally recognized as the father of the CPE, Clinical Pastoral Education movement. Between 1889 and 1935, he experienced no less than 5 major psychiatric episodes, schizophrenia, and he also was hospitalized on 3 occasions for this malady. Personally engaged in a struggle to make sense of his own illness, he functioned professionally as a mental health chaplain, as a researcher, and as an organizer of clinical training for theological students. In 1925, with 5 theological students, he began what is known as the modern CPE movement, and the rest, as they say, is history. One of his noteworthy books is entitled Exploration of the Inner World. Today, there are clinical pastoral education centers throughout the United States and Canada, and on every continent. Wayne Oates was born in Greenville, South Carolina in June of 1917. He was born poor. Oates was selected to serve as a page in the U.S. Senate when he was 14 years of age. This experience encouraged him to pursue higher education, making Oates the first member of his family to do so. He entered Wake Forest University and subsequently studied at Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, Union Seminary, and the University of Louisville School of Medicine. After graduating from Southern Seminary with a Ph.D. in Psychology of Religion, Oates joined the School of Theology as a professor in 1947. In his field, Oates sought to combine pastoral sensitivity, biblical teaching, and mainstream psychological insights. This blending of disciplines reshaped traditional thinking on counseling and produced what we call the pastoral care movement. Within the counseling community, Oates pioneered the model of pastoral counseling as a process involving trialogue, that is, a 3-way conversation between counselor, counselee, and the Holy Spirit. He wrote 57 books. Among them are such notable works as The Christian Pastor, and Confessions of a Workaholic, and The Presence of God in Pastoral Counsel. He was an innovative psychologist who brought his creativity to bear on the English language when he created the word workaholic. The term, recognized by the Oxford English Dictionary, assimilated two mainstream vocabulary words, and they appeared in Wayne Oates' writings first. Wayne Oates worked diligently with clinical pastoral education, but he also was interested in supervised ministry, or theological field education, as it is sometimes called. Supervised ministry is called by many names. It's called theological field education, or an internship, a practicum, residency, apprenticeship, practical training, mentored ministry, and so on. Today, every accredited theological seminary in the United States and Canada offer supervised ministry, but that's not always been true. Charles Fiedling wrote an essay in 1966 entitled Education for Ministry, and it convinced the American Association of Theological Schools of the necessity of including academically sound, supervised ministry in the curriculum of seminaries, and it became a part of their degree requirements. Fielding was a professor of pastoral theology at Trinity College in the University of Toronto. In 1957, he co-founded the Toronto Institute for Pastoral Training. He resigned as the Dean of Divinity in 1961 and took a sabbatical. As a visiting fellow at Yale University, he researched trends in church ministry education. This work would result in his 1966 publication, Education of Ministry. He saw the tendency of the schools to replace the practice of ministry with lectures about the practice of ministry. This eventually led to the formation of the Association of Theological Field Education.